Hey guys, this is Jamie. So I'm back today to talk about Portugal, specifically the Portuguese elections that came. They finished yesterday. They started yesterday, finished yesterday. So I do want to say that despite being a very, I guess, pessimistic person, I generally do view, like, I guess, Portuguese politics optimistically, and I have been recently. I do have to say that obviously Portuguese people and in general the population here is quite even more pessimistic than I am. And I do have to say that obviously there's still a lot of things which need to be changed, done, and be in consideration. But again, like being someone who was born in Lithuania and pretty much living with really weird like nationalism and right wing, obviously coming to Portugal where I'm taken normally and I don't see sort of as much hatred towards me. Obviously, it gives me a different perspective and I can be more biased because came from stronger, stronger nationalistic and more right wing country. So, anyway. So, what I want to say, I'm very happy that the Portuguese elections went well, in my opinion. Obviously, there were certain things like I didn't expect Chega to actually win certain places, but I do understand that it was Algarve, there was São Vicente and Madeira, and obviously, these are not good news, but I do want to say that this is not a proper reason for alarm because Chega still ended up getting less votes than what was expected, and they did manage to lose a lot more momentum than from the previous elections. And in general, thankfully, the fact that Chega has been pretty much getting fucked over by the fact that their own people are corrupt, and people tend to sort of, the people who vote for Chega believe in this like AI futuristic white power sort of alt right with no corruption. And obviously, when you see something else happen out of it, people tend to sort of vote for someone else. So obviously, do really want to emphasize the fact that people are voting for Chega less. Chega has less of a momentum. That is a very important part to acknowledge. And while I do understand that obviously there are people which are not happy with PS, there are people which are not happy with PSD. So despite that, I do kind of have a lot more optimism about the current government which is going to be, and I hope everything will go well. Regardless of my opinion on the previous mayor and the current mayor, I do have to say that there was a certain study in Portugal that people do tend to over dramatize the things that are happening. Of course, we had a more momentum. We had PSD win, then PSD with Montenegro's populism took place, and specifically after the last elections of the parliament and etc., Montenegro took his populistic ideas even more to paper with trying to pass certain laws like about um, whether a spouse can have the Portuguese passport as well if their partner is Portuguese, about increasing the years required for Brazilians to get a Portuguese passport, for foreign nationals to get a Portuguese passport as well. And obviously, that was not met with optimism because factually there was literally two stances, which was people which were against it from the side of left and other besides alt-right, which were saying this is stupid and such a law shouldn't exist. It shouldn't even be in consideration to put any stricter requirements. Or there were people like Chega, which were just pretty much yapping that we shouldn't get any immigrants, you know? While I do have to say that obviously there is a momentum in the world, specifically with populism, like we have Keir Starmer's Britain, which is absolutely a populist nightmare, and we have whatever the fuck is happening in the US. So obviously, I went quite anxious watching how these elections would resolve. And thankfully, I have to say that everything went well. Chega's not gaining more momentum, and the people have actually spoken with the fact that they're not happy with this right wing, they're not happy with the alt right growing, they're not happy with populism, and people are going back to PS, which is a safe bet in my opinion. And I do understand that I am, despite being a communism and being, I am very lax on what I allow or sort of I think is acceptable in the government. And by lax, I'm really joking on it. But I do feel like if there are certain things like healthcare, social programs, benefits for people, that overweights any other things, you know? Like, sure, of course, I want someone who's way more left and who's more aligned with my ideas and policies, but I'm more than happy with like a PS government. And I do feel like in this day and age, it's better to go with a government that we know that works, even though they have obviously their flaws, you know? And I do have to say that obviously this is my opinion as someone who has been in Portugal for 8 years. And obviously, there are historical contexts, there are reasons why people don't like PS fully. But this is my reasoning, my opinion on this. And I just I enjoyed the Portugal. I came in with PS. I still, I lived through, and I'm living through Montenegro's Portugal, and it's still fine. And I'm happy that people are understanding that they don't want populism. They want to go back into a Portugal which is more open minded and does not have this sort of like waking up every election with the fear of like Ventura gaining more votes, And specifically in this day and age where like Labour Party in the UK, for instance, is trying to be a different reform only under the name Labour. Of course, I get scared, like thinking, like, what if PSD will do the same thing? And they have tried to do that with the laws about citizenship, factually, just not as harsh as Ventura's. What I'm trying to say is that I am very happy that Portugal is waking up with the fact that we need to be focusing on protecting the people who are in Portugal, who are citizens or who are just residents. And we shouldn't be turning into right-wing hate or populism. So I'm very happy about that. I am very happy with the results. And I just feel like I just breathed a sigh of relief because everything has been kind of fucked looking at the world, and to see that everything is sort of at least gradually slowing down here and becoming easier is nicer. Of course, I want to say that there are a lot of issues in Portugal. I'm not erasing that. But the main thing is that we're not going to end up having racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism, and just absolute right-wing degeneracy being added to that list. And that is what matters. It is easier to work with a normal government than to be working with every issue at once and have people not be treated as people. That's pretty much my point. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say today. I do want to say that thank you very much to everyone for supporting me, watching these videos. I really appreciate the love, the support, and I even get a bit nervous seeing it. So it's really lovely to see that. And I'm sorry my voice is kind of dying from talking so much. So yeah, that was pretty much the rundown in Portugal, and obviously there were obvious things like, is Latino Moraes winning? Congrats to him. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to share it, to discuss, to share awareness on Portugal, I guess, and feel free to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.